Hey, how you doing today? So, funny hat because today is my birthday. Today. And I thought since I've made another trip around the sun on this rock we call planet Earth, I thought I would share some wisdom, anecdotal wisdom with you. And what I want to talk about today is what should you invest in? What kinds of things should you invest in? You know, there's the stock market, there's bonds, there's gold, there's real estate. There's all kinds of things that you can be investing in to secure your future. And we're going to talk about that, what that means to me. So buckle up, buttercup, because here we go. Welcome to Goose Pond Hideout, and I'm Rob, birthday boy Rob. So, this is the thing, and it's kind of, you want to hang in here because I'm going to be, it's not going to go the direction that you now think that it's going to go in. And, you know, there's a lot of people, what I share with you, my wisdom that I've gained, is that we only have so much time on this planet, and we live in the moment. You know, we live like right now. I'm living right now in this moment. What happened yesterday and last week and all of that is the past. And if we didn't have memory, there would be no such thing as the past. You know, if you just woke up and it was today and yesterday and all the past didn't exist, it wouldn't exist, right? And of course, you know, you want to plan for the future and all those kinds of things. So, big disclaimer, I am no financial advisor. I'm just the guy that's made a bunch of trips around the sun on this rock, and I'm sharing my life experiences about what you should be investing in to secure your future in the life that you want to have. So, again, no financial advice, this is just my thoughts. And in the science world, they call it anecdotal evidence, where, you know, you base your conclusions upon things that have happened to you. So, you know, again, stock market, bonds, gold, real estate, all these things, and you've got people coming at you from all directions. You know, today the dollar's tanking, so you want to be buying gold and precious metals, and the stock market's overvalued, so if you've got money in the stock market, you better pull it out now, because, you know, who knows what's going to happen down the road, and blah, 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 all this noise about what to do. And, you know, just to address that a little bit, is, you know, right now everybody's gold is going crazy and everybody's saying buy gold, buy gold, buy gold. But if you look back historically, and I did a little bit of research earlier today, around the early 1970s, 71 to now 2025, the stock market, the S&P 500, has gained about 10.75% year over year. You know, 10.72 or something like that. So well over 10%, almost 11%. Gold has gained in the same amount of time, you know, 7.8, 7.9%. So year after year after year, over a long period of time, the stock market is always the thing that performs the best. It's just now, because gold is going crazy, you know, it's up and down and up and down. And if you like riding the roller coaster, you know, maybe that's for you. And hang on to that thought, because I'm getting to a point here. So, you know, the whole concept of investing in the future, you know, you see people, all kinds of well-known people, or, you know, start early in your 20s because compounding interest is your friend. And if you start when you're, you know, 24, 25 years old, and you save $300 a month, by the time you're 65, you'll have just over $1 million. And mathematically, that's true. If you bring up a interest calculator and you punch in $300 a month for 40 years, 45 years at a reasonable rate of return, 6, 7, 8%, whatever like that. At the end, it's worth like $1,063,000 or whatever, depending on what numbers you use. So that's true. But my experience, if you want to think about it, is back in the early 80s, my first real job, out of college in 81, 82, because I fooled around a little bit for a couple of years. Did an odd job kinds of things in that before I got a real corporate job that only lasted me 2.5, 3 years. But that's another story that I've talked about. Is my first job then in 82, I made $18,300 a year. $18,000 a year. So, and that's gross. That's my gross pay before everybody gets their fingers in it and takes out all their withholdings and everything. So $300, that's 20% of my gross pay. What 22, 23-year-old can afford to invest 20% of their gross pay? So it's probably 35, maybe even 40% of your take-home pay when you're trying to get a foot on life. It's really unrealistic. And that's where, again, my experience, what I try to share with you in my videos, talking about homesteading, drying the laundry on the line, the old chopping the firewood so we can heat the house with sweat equity, making firewood and all of that, is the thing that I think, sure, invest down the road, don't be stupid and just burn your money, but be realistic about investing in the stocks and investing in precious metals and buying, investment real estate and that, because nobody knows what's going to happen tomorrow. You live in the moment, you live in the now, and you can be wise and plan for the future, but make your plans in pencil so that when you get that big old slice of humble pie, you're prepared. But that's my feeling for you, is invest in yourself. That's where being self-sufficient makes sense, when you're taking care of yourself. So no matter what happens down the road, no matter what happens tomorrow, no matter what happens a year from now, no matter what happens 5 years from now, if you invest in yourself, then you're going to be good to go regardless of what happens. And nobody can take that away from you. If you learn how to cut and chop firewood and burn it in a wood stove, that's a skill that they can't come and take that skill away from you. If you learn how to garden, how to care for the soil and watering and growing your tomatoes and your peppers and your cucumbers and whatever it is that you want to grow, sweet potatoes, whatever, taking care of chickens so you have eggs, and maybe you want to have some meat birds too, and you learn how to do all that. You learn how to can so that you can preserve your foods over the winter time. Maybe you have a cold cellar and you have some apple trees and you save up, you put your apples away. That I don't want to go back into the past because I just been telling you how the past doesn't exist, but think about living the way that our grandparents and great-grandparents lived, before there was electricity, because tomorrow there might not be any electricity. Before there was the internet, there might not be the internet. And living the simple, self-sufficient life that they learned how to do everything. Grandparents taught the grandkids how to fish and how to hunt and how to garden. And my grandma with canning and everything like that, and I found it interesting to watch her and kind of learned how she did it, baking everything from scratch. They didn't buy cake mixes from the store, or cookies, chocolate chip cookies, or she made these pan chocolate chip cookies, the the flat pans, they're only like an inch, inch and a half high, and you know they're like 18 inches by 2 feet, and cooking sheets. And she mixed up this chocolate chip cake like stuff and poured it in there, and then she cut them in little rectangles, and it was like chocolate chip cake cookies. And oh man, now I'm hungry. But anyway, that's the thing I want you to be thinking about, is invest in yourself. You know, learn, buy books and read books, watch YouTube videos, get outside and learn the hard way. Experience is a hard teacher because she gives the exam first and the lesson after. You know, learn how to can, learn how to garden by doing it so that then you develop that skill, and you know, you're all going to be good to go. So my birthday wish for you is for you to invest in yourself, not be distracted by all of this, you know, gloom and doom that the world's going to end tomorrow. And I mean, you've seen those videos where in May, the world's going to end next week, better do this. And then in June, it's the world's going to end next week, you better do this. And then in July, the world's going to end next week, you better do this. You know, it's just month after month after month. They keep saying the same thing. And it's just crazy, you know. So I hope that helps. Thanks for the birthday wishes. I appreciate it. And I'll see ya somewhere along the next trip around the sun on this rock planet Earth. Freedom!